stream where one of the teams at Mass Digi at SIP, we're making a 2D stealth game called Raccoon Revenge. This is the icon for it. This stream's going to be about designing and developing the game. So I know previous streams have been about art, and they've been like discussing like brainstorming and production. This will be actually get into some pretty specific details about how we've designing the game and implementing it, but we can also talk about really anything, because there's the four of you here that are watching it. You guys can choose anything. Please talk in chat if you want to. Yeah. So this is what we're looking at for today. The times don't really matter, but we're gonna start with a quick, maybe not quite 10-minute demonstration. Oh yeah, demonstration of the game, and then we're gonna talk a bit about design, one specific framework that I like, and a few other ways of understanding game design. Mike's gonna talk 5 minutes about UI.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a quick break / QA and discussion about those 2 points about the game, and if you want to come up with questions. We're going to do 10 minutes showing off the game in Unity and showing one specific feature, and we have a few different options for that. Cassandra's going to have to talk about level design, and then we also might be doing a live level design during that time. And then at the end, we're going to just go and talk in Q&A. Okay, so just to introduce everyone, introduce Donair, which is our team name. You saw it in the thing. Donair is a gyro-like sandwich made with spit roast, onion, tomato, and garlic sauce that originates from Halifax, Nova Scotia. All of the teams this year are named after good chew food, and we just got Donair, and I didn't know what it was, but that's why our team name is Donair. Okay, to actually introduce the people, so this is who's talking from Donair. If you want.
Yeah. So my name is Cassandra. I'm the lead producer and designer. I am a rising senior from Rhode Island School of Design, and I major in illustration.
I'm Elijah. I'm a rising senior at Northeastern studying game design, and I'm the associate producer and designer and also programmer for this game. I have a few roles throughout it, but
I'm Mike. I go to Becker College. I'm going to be a senior this year. I am studying interactive media design with a focus in game design. And for this project, I am the UI designer and artist.
Yeah.
And I also do a little programming.
Okay. So to start off, we're going to be talking about academic ways of thinking about game design. So this is the kind of thing you learn in a first year game design class. This is something I learned, and I kind of like it, and I used it at a few points in this game, so I wanted to mention it because it just makes me happy to talk about. Oh, no, we're not going to do that first. We're going to do demo. So this is a QR code. If you scan it with your phone, if you have the Test Flight app, which you can download off the App Store, and I think it just goes to the Google Play Store with the Android one. I'll leave these QR codes up for a bit, and I can also maybe get the links to these and put them in the chat. This is the game. You can play it right now, and it's in beta. So if you scan those, I'm gonna get those links as well, so we have those. And yeah, we'll show off the game.
Cool. Mike, do you want to drop the quick the pitch that we had for the game while he's getting the links up?
Sure. So the pitch of the game is that Snatcher the Raccoon Bandit wants to take over the human race. And so you could sneak your way past security, grab the trash, and escape in a set amount of time. And I honestly kind of forgot the pitch because I haven't said it in so long.
That was about right.
I mean,
that's
good. I mean, that is what the pitch is.
Yeah.
He wants to steal all the stuff back and reclaim Earth. I don't know.
Yes.
There you go. So those are the links. The QR codes are there. They're going to have to go at some point soon. The links will stay in the chat. So if you want to play the game, I'm going to show off the game as well right now so you can see what it looks like. So we're going to switch over to Unity.
So Elijah, don't worry about the links. I'm going to be sending out an email with them later.
But if they want to see it during the stream, just there.
Absolutely.
Okay, is Unity being shared? Yes, I think it is. There's a lot of stuff on top of my screen when Zoom's happening. And yeah, we're jumping right into the game. There's a bit of UI, and we could show that off. So yeah, this is the game. You play as Snatcher the Raccoon, whose goal is to collect the trash cans in the level. the trash in the trash cans, and avoid the enemies who are walking around. And if they catch you, they'll chase after you. And if they get to you, you'll catch and have to restart the level. It's a while to run away, but I think I can go up. Oh no!
Oh no!
Knock her out.
Can't not. Oh god! Okay, I think it's a hard game. I've only played this level about 200 times, so there we go.
Oh.
I'll beat the first level and then continue on. Got the level flag. Gotta take out a bit more trash while we're at it.
Just to by the way, the game isn't laggy. That might just be the stream.
Yeah.
Be given a little lag.
Hard to render every frame on a stream.
If you play the demo yourself, it's a lot smoother.
It's a pretty smooth game. Yeah, you also have power-ups, but that was good strategy. Okay. We'll stop doing this and go back to the thing. So yeah, we're gonna talk about game design. I forgot my own PowerPoint. Okay. So we're talking about a specific framework for understanding games called MDA. Do the Becker people know this, or is this like a Northeastern thing that we just really mechanics, dynamics, aesthetics? No? Okay, great. So we get to, okay. So basically the idea behind MDA, mechanics, dynamics, aesthetics, is that game play, it's really focused on gameplay. It doesn't really deal with the other parts of games, but that gameplay can be thought of in 3 different ways: mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics. Mechanics are like the actual programming work you do. It's the data and the algorithms, as you can see there, that make up game. They're like the specific features you put in. Dynamics are kind of what mechanics are built up for. They're specific like gameplay actions you do, ways you play the game. So like the mechanics of the game: knocking over trash, following a path, spawning power-ups, and the field of view with the enemies. The dynamics kind of hiding in a corner to avoid the field of view, or managing your power-up. So like you get a power-up but an enemy's chasing you, so you go around and then pick it up to knock them out. And timing how you advance to the enemies, and all of these things are kind of like dynamics. And then there's aesthetics, which aesthetics can also be used in terms of like the art and the sound. But in this context, it's just the aesthetics of the gameplay, how it feels to play the game. And those are just like adjectives, words you describe. So for Raccoon Revenge, excitement, tension, anticipation, sneakiness, which is probably the most important word, chaos, and revenge are all words we kind of want to work in the feelings you want to invoke. And the role of the designer is to kind of manage all of these 3 things together and try to use mechanics to build up dynamics and aesthetics. The way we use it in this game, the way I've been using, is to decide when like the quality of the game design and when we finish parts of our game design. And you can see the questions that you can use to answer like each of these things. So if you have a mechanic, you can ask, does this function? If your mechanic is knocking over trash cans and the trash cans aren't being knocked over, it's not working, and then you have to fix it to make sure that mechanic's in place. Whereas dynamics is more about balance. So like, does knocking over this trash can make the player too powerful in the specific moment? Does the power-up spawning make it too good? That's the kind of thing you want to check when you're working on dynamics. And then aesthetics, you're saying, is this fun? Does this feel good? Is this the feeling I want? And that's all kind of what you have to manage. I also put the link to the paper this framework is based on. And also, so this is a good way to think about games, especially from a game design standpoint. This is how like all the roles kind of do it. So programmers are mainly working the mechanics. They're implementing features, where artists, writers, and sound designers, all these aesthetic people, are making like the emotional core of the game. The job of the game designer is really to take mechanics, and by using and tuning dynamics make aesthetics. Whereas like UI designers, effect designers are taking aesthetic pieces, aesthetic artifacts, and then applying mechanical like functions to those aesthetic artifacts, which is kind of there. I also put this thing, if designers work on mechanic, they're probably just going to be programming, but in a design context where it's a lot about like choosing things, if they're working on aesthetics, they're probably just writing, like communicating their ideas, which is a lot of game design. Game design is like 50% writing, if not more. And then if they're just working on dynamics, that's when they're really doing what we think of designing, like going into spreadsheets, typing out functions to get that really going, or play testing games. That's all really dynamic work. So this is just one framework for game design. There's another one that I really like, Game Feel, which is based on this book by Steve Swink. And that's really good for visual action games, which our game kind of fits into. It divides games into 7 categories about what it focuses on, and then it really focuses on how to make the best game that intersects in all of those categories. So like having a game that you play real time, so like the game updates as the player puts in input. Spatial simulation, things collide, things move as you expect them to, and polish, things the game communicates what you're doing effectively. So this is also a really good framework for understanding game design, and it's one I kind of use generally. The one MassDigi is using right now, and the main one is the design pillars, which are the middle. This is our game canvas. This is kind of what we understand, like how we've, like what we built in our brainstorming. In all of our brainstorming, we kind of worked towards this to make this. And our design pillars are like just the ideas we want to focus on when we're designing. Pacing, challenge, key emotion, the key mechanic. And if those things are good, and if we're liking those things, and all of the other things merge well, that's what we decide, okay, we've made a good game. And you can also see on the side, there's comps here. Comps are really, really important because all of this design work is really hard. It's really hard to make a good game from scratch without any sort of like inspiration. In fact, maybe impossible. I don't really know. You try it out for yourself. It could be fun. And so most games have some inspiration from games already that they built. Some games have some inspiration from games, but also a lot of games take things from the real world. That's where most new game genres come out from. So we call these games, at least at MassDigi, comps, comparisons, games we kind of can look at. So for our game, we have a lot of comps that all kind of fit their own different roles. So we have like Metal Gear and stealth games in general have come into play, especially with how the enemies are reacted. Untitled Goose Game is an emotional comp for us. We want a raccoon to feel the same way the goose does, same kind of chaotic enemy, kind of like fun villain you get to play, destroying all the human stuff. And then Pac-Man is also like a thing for collecting the trash. You know, it's the same kind of running around a maze collecting stuff. So our goal of the game is to combine all of these game ideas into one game and find the connections between these, because all of these games have similar things. They all have enemies, they all have some stealth, they all have avoiding enemies, and they all have collecting things, but they use it in different ways. And our game, we want to kind of combine those different ideas into one. There's also a core comp called Hunter Assassin, which is what we kind of took like our main inspiration for the game, and it's what we've brought in for most of our work. So like whenever I have a question about like, okay, how do I want this to feel? How do I want this to go? I go to my phone, play Hunter Assassin to see how they do it, and then try to translate this into what we're doing. So Hunter Assassin's a bit slower than our game. It's more focused on like combat, where we're more focused on collection, and those are like conscious choices we've made looking at the comp and trying to make a new thing. Okay, so that's it for me. Mike, you get to take over.
Cool. So I'm Mike, and
Let me stop sharing my screen, and yeah, you can do what you need.
So a brief definition. I didn't set up any slides. I'm just going off the cuff. So a brief definition of UI is that it's a user interface. It's what the player is going to interact with to get them to a certain location of the game. If it's like a level selection screen, if it's just like the start menu, that's all UI. So a good way of looking at what UI is that it's mainly anything that's not gameplay, mostly. I'd probably say, I don't know how much percent, but a lot of anything that's not gameplay is probably UI. So how UI affects gameplay is like, obviously you want to get to a certain place, you have to go throughout layouts, and bad UI is just terrible. Just like lots of menus, unneeded things, things found in different locations. So for when you're pick up a game on the mobile and you just want to get straight to the gameplay, you don't want anything to be hidden in like a wall. You don't want to hit like barriers and walls. So for the software that I use Illustrator and like Photoshop, anything on the Adobe Creative Cloud. So when you make UI, it's going to be like basically buttons, all that jazz, screen size. And so a big key on when making UI is consistency. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show what I've been working on. Oop, I got to full screen it. I actually don't have the option to share my screen.
That is strange.
Yeah, I don't see an option. Oh, I got it.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
All right.
Oop, there we go. So when I'm talking about consistency, there's a lot of, so this was my rough draft of some UI for the level selection. If Unity will play for me, that'd be nice. There we go. So it's a simple loadout. There's a lot of lines that just don't have the proper consistent, like, so it kind of can create contrast, you could say, like the arrow, the line work isn't all the same. So what it looks updated with, it's a lot more consistent with the lines and the artwork, and it just has like an overall better flow to it. So when working with colors, for this game primarily, there's a grayscale to it. So just kind of picking out the colors you want to use first is a good idea. For that way, you're not just rummaging through a lot of random colors. So consistency is a really big key to that. Let's look at some more UI. This is some other mock-ups that I have. I'm gonna move this. So this is just like the pause screen. It's got that grayscale pattern. All that jazz. Okay, get out of my way. No, the Zoom like screen monitoring thing's in my way, so I can't unpause it.
I'm going to jump in real quick. I want to point out something that Mike did that's been absolutely amazing and super unique and original was the idea that like the UI actually animates while it's open. So that's something that like as processing power becomes like more, I guess, accessible, we're going to see like more interesting UI, I think, like as games progress. And that's something that Mike's definitely tapping into right here.
Yeah, a really good friend of mine, Gavin, showed me shaders. And what shaders are is they can basically create offsetting patterns. So they can just you can create a, instead of like flat, boring colors, you can add cool like patterns and textures, and you could just create them to slowly move. So that way they don't disturb your eyes or make you dizzy or woozy and all that. So making that makes your game feel really alive, and that there's actually like this is actually happening in my phone screen. It's not like just like art kind of just sliding. And you're just like, it's hard to explain. It's all moving, and there's many moving pieces, and it's all very important. And
yeah,
I'm not an artist by any means. When I think artist, I think of people who make beautiful illustrations, beautiful character designs. I play with the shape tools, so anyone could do UI art. It's all about consistency. I use all the shape tools, and I just adjust them into certain ways. And I'm not talking just like normal shapes like squares, triangles. You can get like really crazy with like hexagons and stuff. I don't know, dodecahedrons. So another good thing is to try to make things obvious but interesting. When you have buttons, you want them to not just say what they do. You want it like an arrow to go back or an arrow to go forward, numbers, all that stuff. And yeah, textures are great, gradients, shaders. all of that will make your game UI really pop and look interesting rather than flat and dull. That's pretty much what I got from it.
When you said that you just like use the shape tool and it starts all pretty easy.
Yeah,
it did remind me that like I've always been told UI is probably one of the better career choices to make in games. Not only because it applies to other things, but just like
it's very needed.
As we go on, UI is becoming more and more necessary to have a whole UI
It goes
person,
off into so many like
especially
things.
on mobile. Because when you think about like idle games are mostly UI in terms of how it's framed out. The only two people to get a PlayStation internship at my college are two people who did UI.
Yeah.
So like, it's definitely a thing you can look into.
Exactly.
I can jump in on that too. Even from like an industrial design perspective at RISD, UI is definitely like where a lot of the job search and job market's at right now. So.
Yeah.
So it's a good career path for gaming. It's very needed. It's very relevant. People are looking into it more and more on how to make it interesting, especially with VR, where mainly most VR games now, especially augmented reality ones, are primarily UI, user interface. So I don't know, just without it, it's kind of like penny arcade games. You put the coin in and the game just starts. There's no UI in those, but technically there is, with like the little score that goes up. That's anything that stays really like consistent on the screen, like that's kind of UI, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're all learning. I've done UI in a little bit in web development, all that. So never been in charge of a big scope game for UI.
So this is a bit of a QA time. If there's any questions from any of the people who are watching, please ask them in the chat and we'll answer them right now. And then we can go to the next part of just discussions. And if there's no question, that's also fine. We can just continue on.
We have a question from earlier. How long did it take you to get used to Unity? And is there anything you wish you had known when you towards the best results in Unity?
Yeah, okay. That's actually a very good segue to the next part because we're going to be talking through Unity. I can start, I guess. I've been trying to learn Unity for 5 years. I started in high school, and then I had a problem where I didn't realize how to build on Visual Studio, which all you have to do is press a play button. And I got so stuck because my game had so many errors that I couldn't just reset the programming for. So I got stuck for a summer. And I came back to it, and I've been like coming back to it basically now. And now I've done a whole lot of projects in it. A lot of definitely sophomore year of college is when I really got into learning it, like how Unity does 3D stuff and how the lighting works. And then out of that, I did some big 2D projects. And now here I'm learning about how Unity like implements into a professional published game standpoint, and how you go through that process. And that's a lot to do with how you build and how you market the game and how you deal with the project settings. And I'm also learning a lot about programming during SEP right now, because although I'm a self-taught programmer, so especially in Unity, so it's good to see like people who know way more than me working on the game, and I can take what they're doing and try to apply it to my own things.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I can jump off that real quick, just saying like my own experience with the software. I took only like one semester class in it, and it took probably like the first couple of weeks just getting used to the interface. I think that's what scares people a lot about new software, is getting into the interface and like understanding what buttons do what. And like I'll tell you from personal experience, none of us know everything about the softwares we use, even though we use it all the time. It's impossible to know every button and every little doodad. So don't get intimidated. Just start with the tutorial videos and slowly work yourself into it, and it'll come over time. It just takes constant understanding and practice, and you'll get to it.
All right.
I'll go on a tangent about Unity. So I've been on and off using it. So what I'll basically say is you'll never learn Unity. They always have hidden things that you'll be finding new every single time you open it. It's one of those things that could definitely frighten you, because it's just very intimidating. Things are just everywhere when you first launch it, and you're like, what is going on? And so the only way to really like just overcome it is just to do it, is just to pick it up and learn it and do it. I would definitely recommend going and learning from Braxies, who's a big YouTuber on like literally just teaching Unity. He's taught me more about Unity than any other of my professors. And I go to a gaming school. So he just, I don't know. The way he does it is just like, I wish he was a teacher at Becker it's very intuitive. You can learn, it's engaging. Another thing is definitely just to do game jams. It's like game jams are not for finished products. They're all about learning. And it's so cool to see what people can make in such a short amount of time. Itch.io has game jams going constantly. So a great way to especially learn Unity if you're just picking it up for the first time is just do a game jam. Even if you don't even get anything done, you know more for the next time. My first game jam, I didn't make a game. My first game jam was about a 2D character called Spoonleg, and it was 3 weeks after Cuphead released, so we wanted to do Spoonleg. And it was a hopping spoon that was just like a crappy platformer, and it was like 6 hours or something. And we made one level and we couldn't even build it properly because we didn't know how to build in Unity. So we just plopped a PC, like a laptop, and just streamed it, and we played it, and it was a learning experience. We after that, our game jams just continuously got better. I'm working this weekend on a game jam making a VR game, and I've never made VR or even programmed for VR before. So it's going to be very interesting. I'm doing some music for that.
Okay. We got one more question, then we'll go on to our next section. What is a good way to get started without getting too overwhelmed on the spot? This question has come up in the past in streams, so this is a really good question in times.
Go slow.
Yes. I would say, like, find out what you're really, really passionate about and start there. If you're really into art, like, start with assets and learn how to put assets in, you know. If you're really into UI, like, learn how to make, like, stuff related to UI, like buttons. How does that work? Because it's all about, like, taking the passion that you have. Like, I come from, like, an art background and then using that within, like, a technical understanding. So, like, how do I take, like, my illustrations and like, make them game ready? Like, start with that, and then that's what I would say.
Yeah, and also, like, being overwhelmed is not the worst thing. Obviously, if it paralyzes you, it's not good. But try to, especially like if you do start with a game jam, that's an overwhelming experience. It's designed to be overwhelming, but it's fantastic because you're forced to be overwhelmed and have to work with all these other people. I would say, yeah, game jams are definitely the fastest way I've learned any software. But if you want to take it slowly, especially in this time where it's game jams are hard to do, especially collaborate with people on them. Just start with the tutorial, start with the beginner thing. Don't skip the part of the tutorials where they say, here's the interface. If you don't know what the interface is, like, make sure you understand what you're looking at first before you start putting things in. And like, if you want to do programming, don't make your own assets, download them off the store. If you want to do art,
very easy.
You could try like downloading some things that have a game already set up and then playing with the art stuff in that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Don't start from making a game from scratch is, I think, the best thing is.
Or by yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say that's a totally bad thing. I think learning branches from like a little bit of everything really could help polish, because you overall will know Unity a lot better. And if you're just like starting off and you want to like just do one specific thing, I would look at it at branches. So if you want to do like a character animation, first you got to make the character and then you got to put it in Unity. And then before you got to like, oh, I got to like draw it out, design. They're going to have like a robotic leg or something, all that.
And
so everything
of Unity,
works in branches.
And speaking of an introduction, we're going to do a 10-minute tech time. We're going to talk through one part of the Raccoon Revenge, one little technical thing. Let me go back to sharing my screen so I can show you the options. So we have 4 different options you can choose from. I'll choose one if no one wants to choose. That's okay. 4 different things, and it's it's going to be we're not getting into like the algorithm of pathfinding, but if you want to learn how we use pathfinding and how we did it, because we just downloaded someone else's code for doing that. But we also have the FOV cone, or how we do power-ups, or how we generate levels from a texture. And if no one, so yeah, if drop and chat which one you want to look in, and the first one that comes in, I'll do. And if no one says anything, we're going to look at pathfinding. I think that's the most, yeah. I'll just wait a quick moment. Okay. Well, let's talk through pathfinding because it's pretty fun. So yeah, let me go to Unity, and then actually let's just share my whole screen. No, let's not share my whole screen because it shows everything. We'll do that. Great, okay. So here we are in Unity. And I'm just gonna talk you through how we implemented pathfinding, and not going too much in detail about it, but going in enough detail so you can start to glimmer on what we're doing. So pathfinding happens on two fronts in this game, and it's how we do the movement. It's also 2D, which is different. Unity has 3D pathfinding built in, but it doesn't have 2D, so we had to get our own things for that. So I'll play the game again, and so you can see kind of what's going on. So you can see the raccoon, and if I click up here, and it doesn't sometimes work, if I click up here, you'll see the path drawn out instantly, and it navigates to where you have to go, avoiding obstacles, which is kind of what pathfinding is. And we use this instead of like swiping or moving in other ways, because it's more tactical, because you know where you're supposed to be going right when you do it. And also allows the enemies to have that, and we kind of incorporate it together. And then they also have pathfinding chasing the player. They're actually pathfinding every few frames to the player. So the way we did pathfinding in the game is by using a thing called A-Star Pathfinding Project, which you can download on offline if you want to put it in your 2D game. And it uses an A-Star algorithm. A-Star, I don't know what it stands for, but it's just a bit of code that is very good at finding paths for things. And the GIF I had in the PowerPoint where you saw it kind of like branch out and fill the space and then find the point, that's kind of how it goes. It takes every grid space and then every loop of the algorithm, checks the bordering spaces of that grid space and gives them a number, and then does that for all of those and keeps them building out. And then eventually it'll just find, when it hits it, it will be able to trace itself back through all the closest numbers. It's not the best explanation. If you want to look more into it, please do. So all we had to do to implement it is we had this stuff already in. So we had to just connect our player programming to this A-Star pathfinding code. So I'm going to go to Visual Studio just quickly to show that off, and we won't go too much into this, but okay. So this player controller script, which is a bit of code that deals with the player and controls all the player things where it's moving. That's our first thing. That's what gets the input from the mouse or your finger on mobile and tells that to the thing. And I've made this very simple so we can look through it. So you can see it's actually a lot of code. I simplified it for the sake of this talk. But here you can see our variables for pathfinding. We have one that we don't pathfind every frame because that would be too intensive on the phone. So we pathfind every 5 frames, so every 5 60th of a second in the game, and it does it. And then the Pathfinder mover is the bit of code that really manages the paths. And then I think in here is where, in our update function, which is a thing that runs every frame, we have code that detects the mouse button, input mouse, get mouse button, and it checks if it is. That's what the if statement's for. It finds where we're clicking on the screen, and then it finds if we're in a certain round, it will take that mover code, which I mentioned above, and it will just run the calculate path function with the position we have. and that code, which is path agent, takes that. I'll go over to path agent here very quickly. Don't want to get too deep into it because I know it's very overwhelming to see all this just source code. What that does, I think it's in public methods. Yeah, on path calculated or calculate path. Yeah, very simple. It takes seeker, which is another bit of code, which is actually the A star, the stuff we downloaded to make this run, and it just starts a path, and then that will run the path knowing where it has to go and where it goes. The other fun thing we do, which I really like, is the little paw print path we do. We take the information back from the A-star algorithm code, and it tells us exactly the path we want to follow. And then there's a thing called line renderer in Unity. It's a component, which is a part you can add to an object. And that is how we run it. We tell them, hey, here's the path we got. You take that, and then it puts paw prints basically on top of that path. And every frame, basically, it deletes one little segment from the path as you go up, and that's how the player kind of moves, and it moves through. So that's how pathfinding goes. I know that was not probably the best. That was probably a very bad explanation of it. But yeah. And if you have any questions about code, please ask me. I'll have my Twitter. If you can like DM me or something if you just want to ask. I'm happy to talk more about it, but we can keep going. Okay. To level design. Yeah. Oh, let me share. Let me go to the actual share screen for that. Okay.
Cool.
So yeah. So how we do level design, and Cassandra, you're also going to probably talk through this a bit. Our level design is a 32 by 32 texture image, which this GIF is going through, and we just build up different parts of it to kind of create things. And all of these little pixels correspond to something in our game. And we'll, yeah, at some point, maybe we'll later after this, maybe we'll just draw a level based on a suggestion, or maybe not, we'll see. Yeah, we'll talk more about that when we do the drawing, if you want.
Yeah, okay. So real quick, I just figured I'd drop kind of like what we were thinking overall for our game in terms of level design. So we will look back at the pillars that Elijah showed with the blue canvas board that we had made. So basically, like for our game, the main achievement for every level is to get the treasure at the end, which is the green flag for us. And then we want to make the levels, you know, get harder as you go along in the game. So like what are the variables that we can affect in order to make that happen? We looked at, you know, how many trash cans are in the level, how much trash does each trash can give out, how much trash do you need before the trasher is available, that goal. And then level design obviously plays a huge role in that, like where you can go, like how tight the movements are that you can make to get away from enemy AIs, and then the AI pathway that we showed you, that also comes into play. And then for the entire game, like our entire goal, as you play, is the more completed levels you get, the more treasures you get, and then it's a stealth-based collectathon. So that was kind of like where our thought process was with that. I think the next slide we have, yeah. So this is kind of more going into like looking back at the comp of Hunter Assassin and like where we wanted to be for our game with like pacing and stuff. So we decided to go for more of a larger map. Hunter Assassin's more of a confrontation game where we're more of a stealth avoidance game, and due to that, we utilize more of like larger spaces. You can go farther, and Hunter Assassin kind of appreciates more of that tight, like strategic, tactical move. So that was kind of like where we were coming at from that. We also noticed within Hunter Assassin that they have special event levels that happen just about every 10 levels, which is a good way to balance interest. That's really important when you're making a game. You don't want to make it too difficult that nobody, you know, wants to keep playing, but they also don't want to get bored. So how do you keep their interest? And a cool level every once in a while that brings something new to the mechanics is a great way to do that. So that's what we're kind of thinking about as we progress with our gameplay.
Yeah. One thing I'll add is that I analyzed some of the levels we already made with the game, and what I found is that the difficulty of the level is most related to how many trash cans we have in the level and what the amount of trash you need to beat a level is. Because if you have to explore more of the level, you have more opportunities to get caught by an enemy. Where if you only have to do like 3 trash cans in a level with 30 trash cans, you only get the first 3 and then you go directly to the end. So that's also one way like a pretty direct way mechanically in level design, we make the game levels more difficult. Okay.
Yeah. So this is kind of coming from like an art standpoint. If anybody's interested in art, that's kind of like where this is coming from. But so this is just kind of looking at, first of all, like our comp, but also how the tile sets actually lay out within Unity. So if you're an artist making art for games, you're not going to make it exactly the way that you would picture it. So if you look at these tile sets, if you separate them from the picture of the game, you wouldn't think that they can compile to create the picture that you see on the left. But reality, like the procedural way that we create our levels is it's a little confusing to somebody who's not a programmer, but it makes a lot of sense for the programmers on that side. So if you're an artist and you want to get into game art, I think that's something valuable to know, is like how programs will view like what you make. So if you notice, like these are little squares. Each square is about like 32 by 32 pixels. And so the program will go in and place each tile based on the algorithm that we set. And so the tiles in the middle, those are related to the walls that you see. The tiles on the side with the black and the brown, that's more of like our borders to define that space. And then you have the 4 floor tiles, which can generate and tile. Well, the key thing about these is that they all have to be able to fit next to each other. So that's really important when you're making tiled set art and modular art. So that's kind of where we were thinking with that. And you'd be surprised like how many tiles you need to make for just one wall. that was something that I was kind of shocked about. I've never done tile sets before, so this was my first time trying them, and it was really cool. There's a lot of great Photoshop tutorials and stuff for that. So
yeah, in Unity, the 2D extras package is really helpful for this because it has a thing called rule tiles, which lets you kind of, so you don't have to program all of how it's set up. You just click some buttons to say like this tile will drop down when there's a tile this way, but down a tile this way, and that's how it's actually set up in the game. So it's actually not a lot of programming. I may have made it seem a bit more technical when I was working with Cassandra making this, but it's a bit technical because you gotta know which direction things have to go. Not really, but yeah. Okay, so that's, I think, all of the slides we have. Yes. Yay. If we have any more questions, we can talk about this. We can also discuss things here if there's anything anyone wants to just talk about.
So quickly, let me, I'm going to put in my 2 cents here. So everyone that came, first off, thank you very much. This was a shorter stream. We wanted to change the dynamic of our streams to become shorter and more concise with information. I'm going to, in chat, link a feedback form. If you could please fill it out before you leave. It will help us out between times and everything else. But other than that, please ask questions to our streamers. That's it from me. So.
Great. Yeah, if there's no questions, that's fine. We can just. Oh.
That was me posting the thing.
Our raccoon's name is Snatcher. For those who don't know, that's our guy. That's our little guy right there, and that is the enemy in our game. So, yeah.
Yes, Ashley, our artist, is fantastic and made these yesterday just because we wanted to have team pictures.
Yes.
And they're just so good. I'll put this final slide in here just so. I hope it's okay. I put all of your Twitter accounts on the slide.
Thank you so much. Yes.
And all of our portfolios.
Yeah, hit us up if you have any questions.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
I
Just a friend.
as a few people are rolling out here, up on our website, I sent out an email about our website link. We will be posting this PowerPoint on there as well as this entire stream. So if you wish to go back and rewatch this, or check out the PowerPoint, it is only here to help you. So
Yeah, I'll make sure all the links actually work, so you can click them and then go look at the cool sources I have.
So I'm going to give the option, if they wish to, they can unmute themselves to speak to you guys if they wish, if they don't want to type it. Other than that, I would say you guys can, for about 4 minutes, you can head back to your jobs.
Our jobs. Our jobs. No. Yeah.
Working professionals.
Yeah, it's good fun. I'm now just playing our game because I wanted to see if the build worked, and it works,
Is
and
the
it
build
does.
is the new update out?
It is.
You might as well share your screen while you're at it.
It's on mobile.
Yeah, let me test if I can share the mobile screen. That's fun.
That'd be interesting.
It does trust the
Apple
computer.
or Android?
Apple.
You. I gotta grab my iPad now.
I don't think anything sharing, is it?
Prioritize Android.
That's okay. Okay, it doesn't work on the phone, but
I literally only have an iPad just because I want one Apple product in case I can't do certain things.
let's quickly just play the game back on this.
Oh, yes.
Just play it for a bit. We haven't put in the animation for the enemies to walk sideways yet. That's probably something we're going to do this week, but it gets really creepy when they're just looking back, standing still, sliding across the screen. But yeah, it's work in progress. That's something beautiful about work in progress games, because you can see all the potential, and you also can see all the work that has to be done.
What's the version? What's the new version?
You might not have access to it, but
Why not?
you're not on the Apple Connect users.
I'm on the test flight.
You're on the test flight, but to release it to external testers, you have to wait a period.
Yep.
So there's like an even more advanced demo. Like, wow.
Yes.
What's the version anyway? 2 point?
Yeah, 0.200.
Oh, we jumped.
Yeah, because we put in all the new art assets. Oh no! Oh, that was sad.
All I hear is my bird.
Oh no, I'm not good at this video game.
I just can't have another build with all that that one texture. Cause I don't want the other teams to be like, hey, what do you have that texture just everywhere? I'm like, it's a placeholder. I swear I'm doing work.
So how long until this game will be released in the App Store, and how long have you been in development for?
I think it's gonna be released early September, late August. So I think there's a bit of time after SIP is done. I think SIP ends early August, mid-August, something like that. A bit of time maybe where something is set up. And then, yeah, the game will be released.
It's usually a month or two after SIP.
I think the last SIP games were released like September 1st. And we've been working on it since May. No, not really.
Of May,
We've-
yeah.
Since like June, like first day of June, basically. I know 2 of those weeks were brainstorming, which I know the last streams were kind of in that period. So like actual programming work, we've done about a month, I would say. I feel like we're in a good spot too.
Gotcha. All right, it's 3:00. I'm going to close the stream. Thank you everyone
All right.
for coming. Thank you to our lovely streamers for hosting. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye, everyone.
you.